Sorry, go. Hello, everybody. So welcome to Renewables in Africa, your African clean energy champion. So we're always very keen to talk to industry players who are making and shaping this industry. So today we're going to be talking to a very interesting gentleman, so Leo Schiefermuller, who is the Director of Jumeme. But I don't want to sort of do the job for himself, because he's going to do that much better than I. So I'm just going to ask him to properly introduce himself. So Leo, hello and welcome. Thank you to be with us.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for the invitation and the pleasure talking to you. Let me briefly introduce myself. So
please do.
My name is Leo Schiefermuller. So I'm one of the co-founder and director of Jumeme Rural Power Supply, which is a mini-grid company in Tanzania. So we have started off 2014, and since then we have been busy in developing, implementing, and operating mini-grids across the country. And that's what we are currently doing, basically.
Excellent. So, because I read about you, and also we've met a couple of times at conferences. And what I know from the company is that it was created with a huge ambition to build mini-grid across the continent, which is very great. So 300, that's what I read. And also the ambition to electrify about 1 million people, if not more, by 2023. So we are just 3 years from this date. And I just wanted to know, what is the record so far?
Yeah, what we have been doing, or what kept us busy in Tanzania, is as I mentioned, the development and implementation of the mini-grids, and so far we have now put 23 mini-grids into operation, which electrify a total population of roughly close to 200,000 people. So the population living in that area is between 150 and 200,000 people. And yeah, so we're keeping ourselves busy. Obviously, it's a very ambitious target, and we certainly, as you can imagine, it's not always easy to work in rural Africa in the environment, as we are exposed to regulatory changes and challenges, as I think we all know. But yeah, we have seen with our mini-grids that we really make an impact, that it really changes the lives of the people. So we are happy and fully motivated to continue pushing.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So talking about changing the life of people. So we know the coronavirus crisis has certainly changed the life of all of us across the globe. And then one thing it has shown is actually the vital importance of power supply for healthcare centers around the world, most importantly in Africa, in order for them to deliver the service. I was actually wondering, how is Jumeme concretely helping those health centers in the continent?
Yeah, thanks for this question, because this is something where we have been put a lot of emphasis, obviously, during the last months, in order also to make our own contribution here, seeing the needs in this crisis. So what we have decided as Jumeme is we have come up with our own, what we call COVID-19 relief program, where we decided to provide electricity services to health center and hospitals within our area of operation for free of charge. So in concrete terms, like we are currently providing or have connected already 10 health center and hospital, which we are providing free of charge electricity services, and we are currently connecting another 10. So we are in total have 20 such facilities which we are providing electricity service for the next couple of months free of charge. In general, I think what we have seen is really also in the areas of our operation where there is no national grid infrastructure. We have seen the importance of mini grids providing electricity to such facilities, because we have started with a pilot mini grid back in 2016, and what we have seen in this specific village, which is on an island in Lake Victoria, is that this health center, which was a very ordinary health center, like you see it thousands of those in rural Africa, because of the availability of 24/7 electricity, has already developed to a really proper hospital with all the facilities in place. And I think that's what we have to consider, that reliable, affordable electricity is also really key to the health infrastructure in rural Africa.
Okay, thank you, and that's so vital. And I know that the industry has responded very well, because I've heard of one or two other companies who have made a similar kind of initiative, and it's so much needed. And because I'm having the pleasure to talk to you today, so this is actually a huge sacrifice that you as a business is doing, because you mentioned for the next 2 or 3 months, you're going to be providing that for free. So I was just wondering, so how do you make up for the shortfall financially? Because that's a huge task. And you're also having to look after people working for yourself.
Well, I agree. I think we are all aware of the financial consequences, but I think, in times like this, I think it's up to everyone, including energy supply companies, that they have to make their contributions here. And clearly, we hope that this is a very short-term crisis, and that we all are going to be that we recover very quickly from that crisis, and at the same time, go back also quickly to the normal operational mode. But at the same time, again, I have to repeat myself, but it's really, energy is an essential service. So we are really fulfilling essential needs of our customer. And therefore, I think it's just up to also have contribute here accordingly.
On behalf of the whole industry and also those local companies, so I want to say thank you for you doing that. I'm sure they really appreciate it, and also being the spouse of a key worker. So I know what it means to have supportive an energy company. So one thing I've noticed on your records, it's you already built 23 mini grids, and with more than 200,000 people that you have electrified. It seems to me that you seem to have a model that works. I'm not asking you to reveal a business secret here, but mini grid is so important. We're talking about in Africa, and many people want to kick off this project. I myself been involved in a couple of them. What would you say is the right approach business-wise for mini grid to grow across the continent?
Well, I believe what is really key for mini grids is that you very much focus on the productive use of electricity. So we have done that from the very beginning, and I think that paid off, that focus. But we didn't, usually when we talk about productive use of electricity, you're talking about providing electricity to milling machines or workshops or whatever, or normal small shops which you find in rural areas. But I think what we intend, or what we are doing, goes far beyond that. So we are developing business opportunities, or we are trying to capture opportunities or business opportunities which arise or which result from the electrification of rural areas. So with the presence of electricity, there are certain opportunities which you need to capture in order to make the mini-grid business by itself viable. If I can give you an example, so we have electrified 10 islands in Lake Victoria. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of fish business going on. At the same time, these local fish businesses have been lacking in the past cooling facilities. And therefore, they haven't been able to capture the full value of the fish they're actually selling to any business or any trader. And therefore, the value they received, or the amount of money they received for the fish was very limited. So by bringing electricity to those islands, we are able to actually provide cooling facilities. And therefore, we are now able to actually increase the value of the local fish significantly, because the fish can be now cooled and transported over a longer distance in order to reach markets where you can achieve a higher value for the fish. And I think that's just one example of how you can actually try to capture the value of the business, of the electrification business. And I think this is something you need to actively look for such opportunities, and integrate that in your business model.
That's actually very smart. So you're talking about not just focusing on your own production, but looking at how can you actually strengthen the whole value chain so that all the gain can be maximized. Excellent, great. So I had a question in mind, but let me slightly modify that in light of what you just said. So we know that Tanzania is one of the countries with, let's say, a more robust regulatory framework for mini-grid development in Africa. It's not necessarily the case. What would be the 2 or 3 key steps from the regulation perspective that you as a developer would like to see in other regions of Africa in order for the industry to grow?
I think what's clear is that it needs to be a clearly defined electrification plan for the country. So it needs to be clearly defined, okay, which village, which area, which regions I'm going to electrify with grid extension, and what is the best means by using mini grid electrification for a certain area. I think that's the key, because nothing worse than an uncertainty in terms of grid extension. So the grid extension is commercially probably the biggest risk for a mini grid, or for a mini grid investor. And therefore, I think once this is clear, and that's already a very big step forward in terms of regulation. At the same time, I think it needs to be also very open, or the regulation need to be clear about the possibility of private companies being able to operate in the energy space, in the energy sector. So this is usually, quite a number of countries. It's there's this transition from where the energy or the power is only regulated or only in the hands of a national utility. I think that's we still see in a number of countries. But it need, there need to be a clear regulation that, if you want to come in, if you want to do mini grid, based on my experiences, can be best done by private companies, but you need to have the regulatory framework for that in place, obviously.
Okay, excellent. So I'm sure many people will be keen to hear that. Last question from me. So COVID-19, let me come back to that just for a second for us to wrap up. Do you see this as an obstacle or an accelerator for the industry as a whole?
I think this answer I can only, or this question I can only answer, you know, after we have gone through that crisis, to see, because it largely depends now how the whole crisis is going to materialize in Africa. Because fortunately the numbers in Africa is not as bad as we see them in Europe. So we sincerely hope that this is going to remain like this. And some of the African countries have been really well prepared and have responded very well to that crisis. Obviously, as I mentioned before, decentralization and the need for power, not only for the health center, but for the whole communities. Also, for example, in our pilot system, which is operational now for 4 years, we have seen the development also of a functional water supply system, which is obviously again key for reducing your exposure to COVID-19. I think those all aspects made us really aware how important rural electrification is. So yes, I sincerely hope that actually we see this COVID-19 as an accelerator, as we also see funding coming in, emergency funding. But again, please ask me the same question again in 3 to 6 months, and then I hopefully will be able to give you a clear answer.
Excellent. So thank you. I know that was a difficult question, and to be quite fair, nobody can properly respond with certainty. However, thank you very much, Leo, for taking the time to talk to us this morning. So that was really great to hear about the great step that you are making with Jumeme and how you are supporting in this particular and difficult time. So it was a pleasure to be talking to you, and we hopefully should be bumping into each other very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure being with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.